We have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family.
It all started with a roar outside the courthouse. Angry chants filled the air as protesters shouted, crime family. Their voices thundered through the streets like a warning siren, setting the stage for something huge. Inside the courthouse, the tension was thick, but the real explosion didn't happen there. It erupted on live television when Jimmy Kimmel decided to shine a light on something Trump's team clearly hoped would stay in the dark. Kimmel didn't just make a joke, he exposed something raw and real, and once the cameras rolled, there was no turning back. What followed was a wave of chaos that no one saw coming. Things escalated so quickly that someone actually called the cops. Yes, over a joke. A late-night comedian made a comment so bold it caused a full-blown panic. Why would a joke send someone running for the phone? Because Jimmy hit a nerve. A deep, dangerous nerve buried in the Trump family's image. Outside, the crowd kept chanting louder. But inside Kimmel's studio, the truth was being unwrapped like a scandalous present. Jimmy's words were sharp, and the laughter only made them sting more.
I'm not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors. Right? Do you understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy.
I'm a business guy who had his elbows soldered together, and now...
Donald Trump Jr. was in court again, and he didn't look confident. Sitting on the witness stand, surrounded by cameras and pressure, he tried to stay cool, but it wasn't working. Meanwhile, the crowd outside kept chanting crime family, and Jimmy took that energy and ran with it. A very dumb crime family, he said with a grin that said it all. Then came the nickname that would haunt Don Jr., the Gambazos, a play on Gambinos that made the Trump name sound like a circus act. The crowd loved it. And then, something even more shocking happened. Don Jr. said under oath that his father was an artist when it came to real estate. Yes, he said that, in the middle of a fraud trial. Jimmy couldn't believe it either. An artist? He said, stunned. This isn't an awards ceremony, it's a courtroom. And just like that, the clip went viral. Kimmel didn't have to exaggerate. He just hit play. The footage showed Don Jr. saying exactly what Jimmy claimed. No spin needed. Don Jr. tried to explain himself. I relied on one of the biggest accounting firms. He cried. How was I supposed to know more than them? But Jimmy was ready. He fired back with a comparison that made the courtroom logic crumble. Should patients start getting sued for trusting their doctors? That moment cracked the story wide open. The defense didn't sound logical anymore. It sounded ridiculous. And the studio audience erupted with laughter. I'm not an accountant, Don Jr. repeated, trying to save face. I'm a business guy, but Jimmy pounced on it instantly. A business guy who had his elbows soldered together? Jimmy snapped. The audience burst out laughing. Another hit, another blow to Don Jr.'s crumbling defense. The whole testimony sounded like a sketch. Don Jr. acted like a confused employee who didn't know what forms he signed. But
I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah, good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So, on the other side of humanity's coin, we have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family, the Gambozos, if you will, and... Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist with real estate.
Jimmy made sure everyone saw through it. Then Jimmy paused, looked right at the camera, and hit the audience with the truth. If executives can't be questioned for signing off on millions, who can? And with that, the studio went silent for a beat, before exploding in cheers. Jimmy Kimmel had just turned a courtroom excuse into a late-night reckoning. Don Jr. had walked into court hoping to defend his father, but what he ended up defending was nonsense. And Jimmy made sure every viewer knew it. If you thought Don Jr. had it rough, things were just getting started. Because right after he fumbled his way through the courtroom, the spotlight turned to Trump himself. And that's when things really exploded. What started as a courtroom blunder quickly transformed into a full-blown anthem of mockery. Jimmy saw an opening and didn't just walk through it, he danced through it with music. Suddenly, a remix hit the airwaves. Jimmy flipped Trump's favorite disco tune into a brutal roast. I want to be a taco man. Taco, Taco Man. The song blared, and the crowd went wild. This wasn't just a remix, it was a full-on anthem of humiliation. Trump's ego got roasted to a disco beat, and there was no stopping the chorus of mockery. Jimmy wasn't kidding when he said, "This could be the new YMCA." The joke was catchy, wild, and unforgettable. People were singing it everywhere, online, on the street, maybe even in court. TACO replaced the original dance, and before long, it wasn't just a joke. It was a movement, a cheesy, spicy, taco-fueled movement of pure embarrassment for the former president.
The only thing that would make it worse is if somebody changed the lyrics to a song by his beloved Village People to drive it home.
Taco, taco man. I want to be a taco man. Taco, taco man. I've got to be a taco. Taco, taco man. I want to be a taco man. Taco, taco man. I've got to be a taco.
Hey, he wanted to be a macho man. We got Taco Man instead. This could be the new YMCA. They can play it at rallies. You can do TACO. Right?
And just when you thought it couldn't go further, it did. Reporters started picking up on the madness. One dared to ask Trump about his new nickname, Taco. The word hit him like a slap. Reportedly, Taco stands for Trump always chickens out. And Trump didn't find it funny at all. When the reporter asked the question, Trump snapped. "That's a nasty question," he barked, clearly furious that his new title had made it to the press. But it was too late to stop it. The nickname took off like wildfire. Suddenly, the internet was full of taco-themed memes, AI-generated parodies, and clips that turned Trump into the star of his own fast food saga. There he was, wrapped in lettuce, covered in salsa, and strutting through social media with chicken feathers and a sombrero. The internet had crowned him El Pollo Loco. Every image, every post, every taco joke buried him deeper. Trump always chickens out wasn't just a phrase. It was a rebrand, and it stuck. And what did Trump do? Exactly what you'd expect. He raged. But the more he fumed, the funnier it got. Jimmy didn't even have to say anything. The internet did the roasting. 6 months ago, Trump claimed the country was stone cold dead. But now it was alive with laughter, and it was all aimed at him. So what did Trump do next? He escalated again. He took a joke and tried to turn it into a national emergency. And once again, it backfired spectacularly. Then came the jaw-dropping twist.
Yesterday, he blew up at a reporter because she asked him about a new nickname that's been making the rounds on Wall Street. They're calling him Taco, which is an acronym for Trump always chickens out. Taco. And you're not going to believe this. He doesn't like the nickname at all. She asked it, he called it a nasty question, but it seems there's been an outpouring of taco-themed AI on social media featuring our Crunchwrap Supreme Leader in all manner of chicken garb, rooster hair, and this master five-piece family meal, all in celebration of our El Pollo Loco.
Jimmy revealed that in 2018, while Trump was still president, he actually ordered his staff to call Disney to try and shut Jimmy up. That's right, Trump got so offended by the jokes that he used his power as president to tell a private company to control a comedian. That's not just petty, it's terrifying. Rolling Stone confirmed it. At least 2 calls were made from the White House to Disney to convey the president's anger over Jimmy's jokes. This wasn't just a tantrum, it was censorship. And Jimmy's reaction? President Karen demanded to speak to my manager, he joked. But behind the laughter, the message was crystal clear. This was abuse of power, plain and simple. It was right there in the open, confirmed by public reports and stamped with the Rolling Stone logo. The President of the United States tried to censor a late-night comedian. Twice! Jimmy said he woke up to 80 texts about it. People couldn't believe what they were reading. A sitting president used White House staff to silence jokes on TV. This wasn't satire anymore. This was real life. Disney, which owns ABC, the network Jimmy appears on, was caught in the middle. But instead of backing down, Jimmy leaned into the storm with a microphone and a smile. He even joked, usually when Trump wants someone to stop talking about him, he pays them $130,000. But in Jimmy's case, he wanted me to do it for free. That line hit like thunder, and the timing made it even wilder.
You call that chickening out? 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation, but don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question.
But according to the story, in 2018, Donald Trump, who was at that time president of the United States, was so upset about my jokes that I made about him, he directed his staffers at the White House to call Disney to tell them to rein me in. The report says at least 2 calls were made from the Trump White House to, quote, convey the president's anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. In other words, President Karen demanded to speak to my manager.
Trump was still stewing over an Oscars joke from more than 6 months ago. He kept bringing it up like it was a fresh wound that refused to heal. Every time Trump fired back, it only proved Jimmy's point even more. The man with the world's loudest voice couldn't handle a few laughs without calling the manager. Trump even tried to turn the spotlight back with a Truth Social post saying, Jimmy Kimmel is every night he hits me. I figured I'd hit him back. But all it did was fan the flames. Jimmy clapped back instantly. Thanks for watching, Mr. President, he teased. I'm surprised you're still up. Shouldn't it be past your jail time? That line sent shockwaves through the audience. And the jabs didn't stop there. Jimmy added, I guess I should be honored. The former president took a break from Googling Ivanka in bikini to rant about me. The crowd couldn't handle it. Laughter erupted across the room. Trump tried to look strong, but every reaction made him look weaker, more rattled, and more exposed. As the back and forth grew messier, it became clear Jimmy wasn't just cracking jokes, he was documenting behavior. He was showing America what happens when power meets pettiness. Trump's response wasn't strength, it was panic. He turned comedy into crisis and free speech into a battlefield, all because he couldn't handle being the punchline. While Trump fumed, the Supreme Court stirred up a firestorm of its own, rejecting major gun rights cases, while conservative justices hinted that AR-15 bans could soon be overturned. One justice even warned, I would not wait to decide whether the government can ban the most popular rifle in America. The message was chilling, and the timing was no coincidence. Trump claimed he stood for America first, but behind the scenes, global auto giants were making moves that said otherwise. China was winning and the US was falling behind.
Donald Trump, who was at that time president of the United States, was so upset about my jokes that I made about him, he directed his staffers at the White House to call Disney to tell them to rein me in. The report says at least 2 calls were made from the Trump White House. I had like 80 texts when I woke up sending me this article from Rolling Stone. It says, Trump White House pressured Disney to censor Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Disney is the company that owns ABC, our network, and Jimmy Kimmel is me.
As tariffs soared, companies like Toyota, Nissan, and Volkswagen doubled down on China, launching electric vehicles made for China. From China, even Nissan's China chief said it clearly. They're making cars for every country except one. You can guess which. Trump's trade war didn't stop exports. It just rerouted the profits. And experts confirmed the disaster. One analyst said, this is survival of the fittest. And based on the numbers, the US under Trump's plan was left in the dust. Trump's so-called strategy turned out to be a slow-motion disaster. While he bragged about saving American jobs, global factories quietly packed up and moved overseas. There was no master plan, just chaos dressed up as patriotism. Jimmy didn't need to say it out loud because the headlines did it for him. Every deal, every tariff, every broken promise added another crack to the image Trump had worked so hard to protect. Then came the financial gut punch. In just 1 week, the US economy lost $6 trillion. That's not a typo. It's a financial meltdown bigger than some countries' entire GDP. And what was Trump's response? More shouting, more blaming, and more delusion. He tried to spin the losses as part of the plan, but nobody was buying it. commentators everywhere started repeating the same phrase. This was the plan all along, but every time they said it, it sounded more like a cover-up than a strategy. Jimmy's voice echoed louder than ever. He wasn't just mocking a former president, he was exposing the hollow shell behind the slogans.
Wow, what a plot twist. The first time Donald Trump ever tries to stop someone from talking about him on television, and it's me. Usually when he wants somebody to stop talking about him, he pays them $130,000, but he wanted me to do it for nothing. I wonder what it was. I also want to point out the Oscars were more than 6 months ago. He's still stewing over this joke. He keeps bringing it up, which I don't mind at all. In fact, I love it. I just wish he would quote it correctly. I didn't say, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me.
The bluster and the endless rants. And as Trump kept reacting to every punchline, he proved exactly why the jokes hit so hard. His skin wasn't just thin, it was paper thin and wrapped in ego. Even Fox News tried to step in, sending in a host nobody recognized to calm things down. But instead of controlling the narrative, it only made Trump's spiral more obvious. Jimmy loved it. Every time Trump lashed out, it gave him more material. The punchlines practically wrote themselves, because reality was stranger than fiction. He laughed. Trump keeps saying I'm not talented so much that his wife Erica is starting to get jealous. The audience screamed with laughter, and the clip went viral instantly. But beneath the jokes, the message was deadly serious. This is a dangerous person, Jimmy warned. This is a stupid person, and that's a bad combination. It wasn't just late night comedy anymore. It was a warning wrapped in laughter. Trump wasn't just being mocked, he was being unmasked. With every outburst, Trump gave away more than he realized. He wasn't just rattled, he was unraveling one Truth Social post at a time. And while Jimmy smiled and cracked jokes, millions of viewers began to see the pattern. This wasn't just about Trump, it was about what happens when unchecked power meets zero accountability. Every courtroom meltdown, every angry press rant, every wild nickname tantrum revealed the same thing. A man who couldn't take criticism and feared mockery more than judgment. The taco song, still stuck in people's heads. The courtroom footage, still playing in rewind loops online. And the Disney phone call, that one will follow Trump forever. No matter how loud he shouted, Trump couldn't escape the truth that Jimmy had made crystal clear. This wasn't about ratings or revenge.
See, we have a new round of randomly levied tariffs. This morning, the White House doubled tariffs on aluminum and steel. Well, he did promise to stop the steal. And the president has now slapped a 50% tariff on metals. Experts say higher prices for us are inevitable. We should expect to pay more for construction, for cars, even appliances. He's taking us to the cleaners. Literally, soon we will not be able to afford a washer or dryer. There's no plan. Unless you consult the MAGAverse, in which case there is and was definitely a plan.
I think he's had a plan all along, David, and I think we're seeing it play out.
This was his strategy all along.
This was the plan all along.
Was that his plan all along? It certainly looks like it.
This is the plan that he was pursuing all along.
I mean, you're watching the art of the deal in real time here.
Well, if that was the plan, congratulations, because in 1 week, the plan lost $6 trillion, and every country in the world hates us now.
It was about character, and the public, they were wide awake now, because what started as a punchline had turned into a parade of consequences, all marching to the beat of justice and laughter. Even as new headlines emerged daily, Jimmy stayed steady. He didn't need to scream, he just needed the truth, a stage, and a sharp joke. That was more powerful than any press conference. Trump could mock him, threaten him, even call his boss, but none of it mattered anymore. Jimmy Kimmel had moved in, and Trump's ego was now his permanent address. As Jimmy kept delivering hit after hit, something remarkable happened. The silence from Trump's camp grew louder than their usual noise. The louder Jimmy laughed, the quieter Trump's defenders got. They had no counterattack that worked. No clever tweet, no legal spin, no fiery rally chant could erase the image of Trump being roasted to the rhythm of Taco Man. And as the ridicule piled up, so did the reality. This wasn't about party lines anymore. It was about integrity, or the complete lack of it. For years, Trump had dished out insults and ridicule like weapons, but now the mirror was turned back on him, and he hated what he saw. Jimmy never needed to shout or storm out. He just kept smiling, letting the facts and the absurdity speak for themselves. The comedy was sharp because the truth was sharper. Trump once bragged about being untouchable, invincible, but here he was, tangled in court dates, mocked by parodies, and rattled by late-night monologues. And Don Jr., well, his courtroom defense now lived in infamy. He tried to protect his father, but ended up turning their whole strategy into a punchline. Every moment of that trial was immortalized on screen.
Jimmy Kimmel is every night, he hits me, I guess. His ratings are terrible. He's not a talented guy. I hear he hits me all the time, so I figured I'd hit him because I thought he was a lousy host.
See if you can guess which former president just posted that on Truth. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time? I guess I should be honored that the former president of the United States took time out of his busy schedule Googling Ivanka in bikini to rant about me, but...
Jimmy made sure of it. From artist of real estate to I relied on the accountants, the internet would never forget. Meanwhile, Jimmy's fan base exploded, ratings soared, clips trended, and hashtags multiplied like wildfire. Trump had tried to silence a joke and accidentally made it global. It was more than a comedy win. It was a cultural shift. Viewers realized something powerful. Truth wrapped in laughter hits harder than any press release. And the part that stung the most? Trump had lost control of the narrative. For a man obsessed with image, nothing could be worse. He could rant on social media all day long, but people were now laughing at him, not with him. And once laughter takes over, control slips away fast. Jimmy's legacy had shifted. He wasn't just a late-night host anymore. He became the voice that stood up to power with nothing but wit and a camera. As lawsuits stacked up and investigations heated, Jimmy didn't need to gloat. The footage said everything. The courtroom, the protests, the rage, and the tacos. This wasn't just a skit, a roast, or a viral clip. It was history unfolding through comedy. A reminder that when power forgets humility, satire becomes a spotlight. The show went on, but the damage was done. Trump had tried to cancel a comedian and ended up canceling his own credibility. Don Jr. called the cops, thinking he could stop the storm. But the more they tried to control the story, the more the truth slipped through their fingers. No police report could stop a cultural reckoning. No courtroom could rewrite the broadcast. And no tantrum could erase what millions had already seen. So as the lights dimmed and the credits rolled, the final truth was crystal clear. Jimmy didn't just win the joke. He won the moment. Because in the battle of comedy versus control, satire didn't just survive, it conquered. Everything you've just seen about Trump Jr. and former President Donald Trump is based entirely on verified sources, public commentary, and broadcast content. Nothing private, nothing made up, just what's already out there, seen and heard by millions. There are no rumors here, no conspiracy theories, and no secret leaks. This entire piece sticks closely to YouTube's community guidelines and the principles of fair use for political commentary, satire, and the public's right to stay informed. If any part of this made you think twice, or even just kept your eyes glued to the screen, don't be shy. Hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from.